Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Shomler. This is the Desperately Dating Podcast, Ep.4, and I'm joined by my stepmom. Oh, yes. Hello, Karyn. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
I don't know exactly the title of this episode. I think it's something along the lines of, these are our stories of desperately dating, where I think we had a conversation before this, and we talked about how we're going to, in this episode, talk about our stories of our past desperately dating. And then in the next two episodes, episode 5 and 6, kind of unpack what we learned from our stories. Is that accurate?
I think so.
Yeah? Do you want to start us off?
I guess so.
I'm excited. I don't know very much of your story intentionally. Like I know enough about it, like how you got to know my dad and all this other stuff, but I intentionally didn't want to know very much going into this because I want to react on the fly.
Okay.
And I want to be part of the listener's experience, getting to hear it for the first time and kind of being enthralled the way I think people listening will. So
okay.
Take us on.
Well, I'll try and keep it NSFF.
What does that mean?
Keep it not NSFF, not safe for family. So I'll try and keep it on the safe side. But anyway, I think my story, like many people, my desperately dating story starts with an ending. And that was when my marriage failed. I think if you think about relationships, including marriages, as like building a house together, our house just never really worked. It had slanting floors. It was drafty. The basement flooded. The roof leaked. There was just no fixing it, know? And so the divorce sort of came like a relief. But it was a very painful process. It was sort of like tearing down a house brick by brick, if you can imagine that.
Yeah.
And when you have kids involved and all that, it was very painful, but the house that we had built together just was unlivable, and there was just no way to make it better.
Well, the beginning of the end, especially when you realize, oh crap, the floor is messed up. And the beginning of the end and recognizing the end of a relationship is like the worst. It's like, it's just painful because it's coming and you don't really want it necessarily. And you're like, oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, and the worst part was it actually took our 10-year-old daughter, she was 10 at the time, telling us, why don't you guys just put us all out of our misery and go ahead and get divorced? It's like, whoa, okay. Ooh. Yeah.
I will say though, like one of the, I don't think I've said this on this podcast, but I said it on Strong Opinion Sports, one of the best days in my life was when my parents got divorced.
Yeah.
Because it was, I think as people stay together often, they get married and they stay together for a long time for the kids. And they have a horrible marriage, but they're together for the kids. And the reality is that the same way divorce can really hurt kids, so can a bad marriage.
I agree.
Like I feel like I'm a victim of a bad marriage. The same way some kids feel like they're victims of divorce. And so
I think that's a really good point. And then the other thing that I think often people don't think about when they're trying to make, a dying marriage work for the kids is that that's what they're showing kids about relationships.
Yeah.
And that's not something they need to learn.
I think instead of maybe I'm 22, I'm not a parent at all, but I think my goal in life I want to have kids someday is rather than stay together set a good example for your kids.
Sure.
Whether that's leaving an unhealthy relationship and going to find a better one. Like I think my dad and you are such a good example to me. I'm like, I look up to your guys' relationship and I go, I want that. I want the companionship. I want the fun you guys have together and the adventures and you guys love each other so deeply. I'm like, I really would like that. But I think if you look to yourself and go, I want to set an example for my kids. And sometimes the right example is to leave unhealthiness.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point that I got to in my marriage where it became pretty clear that I was teaching my kids to stay in a relationship that was unfulfilling to both of us, to where we had gotten to the point where we were really bringing out the worst in each other. I wasn't proud of a lot of my behavior, and it needed to end. We needed to put our marriage out of its misery.
Oh, it's the worst. We were talking a minute ago about how it's interesting where teasing becomes mean-spirited at the end of a relationship. I said things I'm not proud of. I mean, like you become a different person when you're like, because you're hurting, and I think there's this quote that says, hurt people hurt people. And I think I'm a great guy. I really try hard to be good in a relationship, and I even at the end of my last relationship, I turned into someone I'm not proud of, where I'm like, you say certain things, and you're like, I look back on that and go, I'm not proud of that at all.
Yeah, totally for sure on that. And then the other bit was I felt like I had sort of lost myself. I didn't feel like I was being true to myself anymore because I had started censoring myself, to be honest.
Well, you compromise so much to make it work rather than... That's what my ex-girlfriend said to me, actually, was I feel like I need to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. But I felt like I couldn't really be myself anymore because that was going to trigger arguments that I was trying to avoid to keep, some kind of peace in the house.
Do you want to hear the mashed potatoes story?
I'd love to hear the mashed potatoes story.
Oh my gosh. So, my ex-girlfriend was getting ready for a Friendsgiving one time, and she was making mashed potatoes. And she made mashed potatoes, and they were, I thought they were maybe done. I didn't know. And she said, "Here, what do you think of these?" And I tasted them, and I gave her an honest answer. And my experience growing up and forever, I lived with my best friend's family for a long time. And the mom of that family loves to cook. And when she would say, "Hey, Zach, what do you think of this?" I would taste it and go, "It needs more salt. Or needs more this." Or, like, I would give helpful feedback to try to make the dish better.
You were honest.
Oh, and I was honest about the mashed potatoes.
Uh-oh, why did I feel like this didn't go well?
I wasn't that harsh. I said, like, I think it needs to be whipped a little longer and maybe have more sour cream. And I think it was, and she just lost it. Like,
whoa.
Was super upset, super hurt. And I felt bad, like, maybe I should have just said I really liked him, but I didn't know how to navigate that experience. I was like, should I just lie? Like, should I just say I love him? I don't, and I didn't mean to hurt her feelings, but then after that, it was a big informative experience. I said, okay, now I got to watch everything I say because I don't know what's going to trigger this or that or set her off or make her sad, and I don't want to hurt my partner. So the minute I realized I couldn't just be myself and be honest about everything, I was like, oh, this might not work.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a road to ruin once you start censoring yourself like that, right? Because then you have to, like you said, remember all that.
Yeah.
Remember what's off limits, and
we were talking before the show about. I said, like, I always talk about how the breakup for me was hard, and then I think about your experience. You have kids, like, I can't imagine spending. I wasn't even in this for that long. I think you were in your relationship for, like, older than some of the people might, like, listen to this podcast. Like,
probably.
To end a really long-term relationship with someone you have kids with and a house and this and that, like, tearing the bricks down of the house piece by piece, that's so painful. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. But, at the same time, it felt like I was kind of in a haze the whole time. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And I just sort of lived day by day and figured it out.
You're trying to just gut through it.
Yeah, exactly. And then also trying to shield my kids from too much pain. This definitely was not what I had in mind for them.
Yeah.
I didn't want that for myself. It's not the vision I had of ever getting divorced. And I definitely didn't want that for my kids, to have to figure out how to live in two houses, how not to have them with me all the time. I mean, that was a really painful time of life.
When you're living day to day that way, when was the day that happened that you said, okay, I have to make a plan and I have to figure out what my plan, like, was there a day where you stepped back and said, what do I really want long term?
You mean with the end of my marriage, or?
Yeah, maybe, I mean, whether it was the end of your marriage or anything, I mean, because I know that there are moments where you get lost in the moment sometimes, and I have to make a plan. For me, myself, I have to go, okay, what do I really want out of my future? Was there a moment when you said, I need to go date, I need to this or that? Was there a moment that things shifted for you that way?
I would say so. It's kind of embarrassing, though, that it happened, like, I don't know, probably a couple years before we actually eventually ended up getting divorced. But I'm just going to own it.
I don't blame you. I mean, I remember before my ex-girlfriend and I broke up, I would think about breaking up with her every single day.
Yeah.
And that just made me sad because I loved her, but also it didn't work. And I was like, realizing it wasn't working, and then feeling like I probably should go find something better, but I don't have the guts to really end it. Like, that's a totally legitimate feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually when my dad and my brother died. They both died totally unexpectedly, 3 weeks apart. It was devastating. I was close to both of them, and it just sort of changed my whole outlook on life. Made me come to grips with my own mortality, I guess, and started to take a deeper look at what I wanted from my life and how I wanted it to be, and also gave me some urgency in that, there's no guarantees on how much time you've got here, and is this really how I want to spend my life? Censoring myself, not feeling like by the time we got to divorce, I really felt like my husband didn't even really like me as a person, and I just got to the point where I was like, fuck it, I just don't want to do this anymore. So I didn't really have a plan on what I wanted. I just knew I wanted something different.
It's interesting how this is one of the reasons I really connect with you is you lost your dad and your brother, which is awful. I lost my brother.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how death can be a wake up call. I really am always nervous to say this about my brother, but it was one of the both the worst thing that ever happened to me and also the best thing, because it
Yep.
catapulted me towards a life I actually enjoy. I was headed down a path that was awful. I was like at a college I hated, taking classes I hated, like just in a relationship that really wasn't good for me. Like there were all these things. I was headed in this direction that would have been really unhealthy for me if it had played out. And my brother's death shook me awake and said, no, Zach, go get what you actually want in life.
Yeah.
Don't do what you're doing and don't head down this path.
Yeah, it's a funny way how it shakes up your priorities, huh?
Yeah.
How you look at it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that I really like, which is that you said your ex-husband, it felt like it didn't like you. I feel that to a T, like you can love someone. End of my relationship, I felt like my ex-girlfriend and I we were best friends for a long time. And by the time we were done dating, it's like we weren't friends. We lost that sense of companionship and friendship. We still loved each other, but you can love someone and not like them. And that sucked, man. That's not good at all.
That is really difficult. And did we already say this? But, just how things change, where you lose that friendship aspect, where you can't tease each other good-naturedly anymore.
Yeah.
Like everything has kind of a hidden meaning.
It's personal. And there's
it's
this
personal.
And that.
Yeah. It's just like you start feeling like you're walking on eggshells. And, I didn't realize that I was feeling that anxiety every day so much until I was actually out of that situation. Until I actually moved into my own place. And then all of a sudden I felt like this huge weight was off my back. I could just relax.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like both my ex and I'm sure, like looking back, go, that's unfortunate. Like that's just sad that it got to that place. It's just too bad. I don't know.
It is too bad. Yeah.
So then what? You're divorced.
So then I'm divorced, and
can we pause? I'm sorry, so sorry to cut you off, but I
That's
know
okay.
that people don't. I think there's not enough light shed on the experience of a divorced woman in America. I think it's one of the more untalked. Like no one, when you get divorced. Does anyone talk to you? Does anyone like?
Oh my God, Zach, that is such a good point you just brought up. I hadn't thought about sharing that part, but you're right. I mean, you're kind of like a pariah. It's the same, I think, when you lose somebody, you have a death in the family. People just don't know what to say. It's not that they don't care. Yeah. But at least with death, I mean, it's kind of harder to ignore. But I felt like when I was divorced, where'd all my friends go in a way?
No one comes to you and says, I'm so sorry about
Nobody
your divorce.
gives you a card. Nobody sends you flowers, or at least they didn't to me. And
I think there's awkwardness. They don't know how to handle it. And especially when they know your husband, like if they know you guys together, they don't want to pick sides, and it's messy. Like,
it's very
weird.
messy. Yeah, that's a super point to bring up. So that whole period of time was pretty challenging.
Probably lonely, right?
And lonely, yes, exactly. And so that's where my desperately dating time started. Again, not super proud of it, but yeah, I just felt like this huge void because I'd spent so much time being a we that I didn't really know how to be just a me anymore. Even just changing the way you talk about regular everyday stuff, oh, we would love to come to that or whatever. It's like, oh, wait, I'm just an I now.
Yeah.
That whole stuff is weird. So I think it started out as, I don't know, maybe curiosity that I started looking on dating sites like, who's out there?
What's the best one?
What have I got to look forward to?
I think Match.com is the best one, right? I mean,
I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there and name which ones I use. And the reason why, and we're going to talk about this more, is I don't think there's magic like that. I don't think there's one magically correct site. I think there are other skills involved, and you can find love on any of them.
Got it. That's cool. Well, and that's another episode, right? Some days,
exactly.
the skills you need to
The skills to date effectively.
I love that. So you're on dating sites.
What's that?
So you're on dating sites.
So I'm on dating sites. I'm just, like I said, out of curiosity, like who's out there? What's it look like? I hadn't been dating in I don't know, almost 20 years. So all the rules had changed.
Can we? I just want to say, like when I felt this way. I'm sure you felt this way. Like especially when you're not, people don't understand when you're not in college and you're not in high school and you're an adult. How in the world do you meet people? And then you're like, I don't know about you. When my last relationship ended, I was kind of stuck in my ways, and I'm like, how do I meet people? I'm an introvert. I don't party. I don't do stuff, and I have high expectations. How the hell am I going to find somebody?
Yep. Well, that's where I think, the same way that everyone else does, and that's on dating sites, right? That's just sort of how it is now. My first husband I met at work, but now I work in a very female-dominated profession, and so the chances of coming into contact with anyone, that way are very, very slim. And also, I guess I forgot to mention that at the time of my divorce, I had just moved from a different state. So I was in a new community. I didn't really have a friend group built up here.
Yeah.
I had some family, but not super close by. So that was hard too.
You're
I
the
felt
epitome
kind of
of
like I was
alone.
on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we say too, I'm sorry to go on this tangent, but I
That's
really
okay.
personally am uncomfortable with online dating, but I need to accept, and I think a lot of people are in my boat where they're like, online dating? Are you kidding me? But also, I think that's just how the world works now. Am I crazy?
I don't think so. And I think there's a lot of good about online dating too.
Well, because
you
it's
know?
all it is finding a way to go on a first date.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are no guarantees after that.
Yeah. But
You know?
if you look at it rather than it's just an online dating pool where you can go find someone for a first date, and if you can get past this weirdness of, I think it actually can be really effective because you can find the things that make it a good fit or not, right?
At least on paper, but
Yeah.
it doesn't take the place of that
Yeah.
in-person meeting
You
to
gotta
see.
meet.
Yeah.
And sometimes you meet and it doesn't work.
Absolutely. Somebody can look really good on paper and then there's just no connection when you meet in person.
Yeah. What's your
Or they've
philosophy on
lied
that?
or whatever.
Oh, dude, that's Tinder in a nutshell, man. They're like, oh, you're not
Yeah.
what your pictures look like at all.
For me, with dating men, I found that it was all about height. Like, yeah, you're nowhere near 6 feet tall. It's like I'm 5'2" and I'm looking you eye to eye. So
Just own it.
yeah, just own it. Yeah, embrace it.
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's the worst way to start off a relationship is with a lie.
yeah, for sure.
oh,
For
man.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of leads me into the next little bit, and that's I decided to go desperately dating, right? So I go on a few dates, and I made like all the rookie online dating
Now, to
mistakes.
be clear, you weren't intentionally desperately dating.
Of course not.
You were just
no,
dating.
I didn't realize that's what I'm doing. I mean, that's what I call it now in hindsight, but at the time, I'm looking to fill a void, right?
Yeah.
Like we've talked about, what leads people to desperately date is, I had a hole in my life and I wanted to fill it, and I wanted to fill it fast, and so I started online dating, and I made all the rookie mistakes, like of chatting too long before actually meeting in person. So you kind of get expectations or whatever built up because you're
interesting.
having such a good interaction, on texting or whatever, and
Yeah.
then you actually meet them, and you're like, whoa, this doesn't work.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that's not just me. I hate. I don't want to talk for days. Like, for example, I was on Tinder for a long time. I don't want to talk to someone for days. I want to say, like, my first interaction is like, what are your goals? Where are you going? Let's get coffee. Like, it's very quick to let's go meet for the first time. I don't want to have days of long conversations getting to know you about your life and your dog and this, because you get attached and then it might not work in person, and then it just hurts when it doesn't work.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like I said, those were rookie mistakes that I was making right out of the gate.
The goal is to set up a first date. That's
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why you're talking,
Yeah.
not to get to know you for forever.
Right. Yeah. So, I went on a few dates and got a little smarter, a little savvier about that, and met a nice guy, who seemed great. What really struck me was I felt like we could talk at a deep level, and I had kind of been missing that in my marriage, and I really enjoy that. Like how you and I love to have these deep conversations.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted somebody like that.
Yeah.
So I met a nice guy, and we started dating, and I don't know, some things it was really fun. Like, it was great to be out, have adult conversation, to have somebody that, admired me, to feel attractive again, like all that kind of good stuff. And it was fun. And then at some point I found out that he had been lying to me, that he had lied about his age. Like, not by a little.
Really?
Yeah, by 10 years. I mean, he was pretty youthful looking.
Wow.
And, I'd always kind of had like this nagging feeling in the back of my head that something was a little bit off. And I was thinking, is he married, And I asked him outright about that. He said no. And then something led me to, check out some of his other social accounts or whatever. And I found on his LinkedIn that he had graduated college like 10 years, 10 years too early to be the age that he said he was or whatever. So that's how I found out, and I called him on it, and we stopped seeing each other. I was like, I'm not gonna see him anymore. He lied about that, and
I wonder what his game plan was. Like, at some point, it has to
know.
like a long term. That is not when you lie about your age. Like, that's a big one. It's like you can't lie about your name or your age, because at some point they got to come out. It's not right.
Yeah. But some good came out of it, because I feel like it made me take a step back from the dating, or climb out of the dating pool, dry off, and just spend some time kind of getting to know myself again.
What does that look like? Were you going to movies by
Yeah.
yourself? Were you going out by yourself? What does that mean?
Oh, I guess more like looking internally, like who am I now that I'm not married, now that I'm a single mom? What's important to me now? What do I want? What kind of lifestyle do I want to pursue? What do I want things to look like? And, it was a really good healing period where I felt like I was kind of getting my ship righted, getting it seaworthy again. I found a cute house to buy, which is kind of scary. It was terrifying to sign the papers on a house by myself.
Yeah.
But it was really important to me, though, to have a safe, comfortable haven, for my kids. I wanted them to have a peaceful place to come.
Haven. And my dad calls your house Haven.
I know,
home.
yeah. Yeah, that's where that comes from. So that was important to me. So I got that kind of settled. I started trying to build up a social group. I'm an introvert too, so that stuff doesn't come easily.
No.
But started going out for drinks after work with people. And, I took some time to find, the right job too that gave me flexibility so I could be there for my kids, but also, paid enough money so that I felt, relatively secure. And I started, seeing my family that's in the area a little more. And so I started to feel a little more settled in my community and, kind of like that. And then once I sort of had that under control, then I took a long, hard look at what I really wanted in a partner since I had my life kind of stabilized.
Yeah. You took time to gather yourself and
I did.
figure out what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then it was a process of thinking about really what's important to me and then translating that into what I would need in a partner. So, what are my values and things? And that really helped me to make, I think, a really complete list on sort of the traits that I was looking for in a partner. And so then I felt like I had kind of a map, if you will, leading me to date more effectively.
To find a good fit.
Yeah, because I kind of I had a better idea what I was looking for, really.
I think it's interesting. I'm a big list person, but sometimes you'll make a list, and the list, as the process goes on, you go, oh, this thing I thought was really important isn't as important as it once seemed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Some stuff just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
One of those things that I've learned is that I thought I really needed someone who has everything figured out. And it's, as long as they have their personal life figured out and are headed in a direction professionally, that's fine to me. I realized how much I'm stable and happy professionally. And I thought for a long time I needed someone who was like a rich doctor. And if they're not a rich doctor, I'm good. And then the more I got to know, I don't need them to have income. I don't need them to have this or that. As long as they're happy with their lives and headed in a good direction, that's what's important to me.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. It's like I had my own life taken care of and settled and stable. So I was just really looking for somebody that was going to add.
Yes. You always say this thing. You say, I think the sum, how do you say it?
Oh, shoot.
You say the sum is greater
the sum
than...
of the parts. No, wait, the sum is greater than the part. I don't know how I said that.
I always say 1 + 1 = 2.5. 1 + 1 = 2.5, which means that when you add 1 and 1 together, you get better than... It's better together than you would have been individually. I don't know how that makes...
I don't know. I'll figure out how I said it.
There's some way. I really liked it. Actually, I wrote it down somewhere.
I wrote it down too. How come I can't find it?
I think that maybe the key, though, is you want to be with someone who doesn't need you.
Yeah. Oh, when the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. There. That was painful to get that out. But.
When the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
Is that your desperately dating story? How you got from the beginning to the end?
There's a little bit more, actually.
What else is there?
So, I was sort of healthy dating, right? Is how I think about it.
Yeah.
No longer desperately dating. And I went on a lot of first dates. I went on 30 or 40 first dates.
Yeah.
Because I was really dialed in. I had it figured out what I was looking for, and I could tell right away. That was part of where the practice comes in.
It became almost binary. We're like, yes, no.
It was yes or no. It was like swipe left or right, but it was done in person, right?
Which it should be.
Yeah, which it should be. And so, that was really helpful. But that being said, it started to get a little bit discouraging because, I'm going on a lot of first dates, what I really would like is a partner. I was pretty peaceful about that. I wanted somebody, it would be nice. I should say it that way. It would be nice if I had somebody to add to my life. It would be nice to have companionship and all that. But I wasn't going to settle either. And so I'm dating for a while and I was like, let's just, it's getting discouraging. And so, I actually met a guy who started having just, a mini relationship with. How should I say? He was kind of a good Mr. Right now. I knew that he wasn't going to be Mr. Right forever.
It was casual.
It was casual, but, I felt like I just needed to get out of the dating pool for a while. I need to get off that circus and just, take some time just to chill. But still, I wanted companionship. And so, we both were pretty upfront with each other from the beginning that that's what it was. There was no goal-oriented
and that's
reason to date each other.
That's the huge key is a lot of times people will lead someone on rather than say, look, here's what I want. I don't want this relationship. I'm not going to marry you.
Yeah.
But if you want to hang out and go on some dates, we can do that.
Yeah, so I did that with him for a while. But then ultimately, it just started to feel kind of unsatisfying. Like, I really wanted something more. I mean, he was a nice guy and everything, and it was an enjoyable period of time. Course. It ran its course. So let him go, and then started dating again, effectively dating again, healthy dating again. Went on some more first dates, and then was actually starting to get a little discouraged again. I was thinking maybe I'm going to take another break. Even sent like kind of a pathetic email to a friend, and then I met your dad.
It's interesting how it's hard to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think another comparable like life situation is when people graduate college and they're really any job search, you go on a lot of job interviews and then you don't get a call back. Or you're waiting in limbo, like, are they going to hire me? Because their hiring process is like 3 months. And you go on like, I know people have gone on like 30 job interviews and not gotten a job. But you got to just keep going because eventually you'll find the right job. And dating is the same way. You always say it's a numbers game. Go on enough first dates, eventually you'll find someone who's a good fit for you.
Yes.
But you got to take heart and have enough courage to keep going on first dates. And you got to trust that what you want is out there and that what you want, it's okay to want what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Compromise where you can and where you think you should, but on the places you don't think you should compromise, don't. That's huge because keep going on first dates, 30, 40, 50, I don't really care how many it is, but keep going until you find what you want.
Absolutely. Yep.
My desperately dating story, I think, I assume you're done. I mean,
I am done.
Happy
ending.
I almost I almost had a really great segue and then I didn't trust it, so I could have gone with it. Mine starts very young when I'm a kid. My mom and I did not have a good relationship. My mom, I've talked on a lot of podcasts, like on Flawed Human with my dad. I talked about how I felt rejected by my mom and unloved by my mom. And to my mom and we're getting better. We have a better relationship today than we used to, and I thought we ever might. We're making progress. But I will say that's why it's so meaningful to hang out with you and hang out with my best friend's mom. My best friend's mom is like another mother figure in my life. And it's nice to feel like I have mother figures in my life. It means a lot to me. But
sometimes it's the family that you create. I think that really serves, what you need.
And my mom didn't hug me very much. So I never got hugged. I never felt really loved. I always felt rejected by my mom. And that was such an unhealthy place to start my life towards females, because then for the rest of my life I was always seeking approval, I think, from women, and seeking like trying to find the love that I didn't feel from my mom, which is so fucked up. Like and not no offense to not a reflection of my mom, just me internally, like the search for that was not right.
When do you think that you figured that out and saw it for what it was?
In my last relationship.
Yeah.
My ex-girlfriend there's some problems with her. The reason why my ex-girlfriend and I bonded in high school is we both had messed up moms. And that was always that and music were the two things that brought us together.
So is it kind of like when addicts get together in rehab?
I guess, yeah.
Maybe a little.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And so we were always friends, though. I mean, I always liked her, but we were always friends. And so that was one of the things of our friendship, though, is she understood my mom's situation. I understood her mom's situation. But that was a bad place to start, because then from then on, like every relationship I was probably a little too desperate, I would compromise too much, and I would seeking love from that person rather than loving myself first.
They were substitutes for your mom, right?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Because I just wanted love from a female. I mean, I really wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
And I had a couple serious relationships for a long time. And I met my ex-girlfriend in high school. I was a junior in high school. And for a long time, for 5 years, I really hoped that we would date. I really wanted to. And I waited for her in some ways. And that's not fair to her, because she didn't know I was waiting. She didn't choose to wait for her. Like, I chose to wait for her.
Right.
And so when she would reject me over the years, I'd go date other people. And then what's really funny is looking back on those relationships, like I just dated people who were like her and slightly different, you know, like like off-brand version of her. You know, like,
the house brand.
Yeah, like you can't get Frosted Flakes, so you get like Frosted whatever, like like the Kroger brand of Frosted Wheats.
Yeah.
And I even had a serious like 2-year relationship that I thought maybe we'd get married, and at the end it didn't work. And you know, she's actually my ex-girlfriend. One of my ex-girlfriends is now married and has everything she wanted in a guy. Her husband, like looking at them, I'm like, oh man, that guy's everything she wanted me to be. And I'm like, good for her. Like, it really makes me happy because it's over now. But the other unhealthy part is I was rejected by this girl I loved. I was seeking female attention, and I just hooked up so much. I mean, I really, you know, I've been in like 4 really serious relationships, but I've had an embarrassing amount of interactions that are we're not relationships.
Well, sex and companionship are needs that we have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I was in college at Washington State University where, look, it's a tiny little town, 35,000 people.
Not a lot to do.
25,000 of them are 18, like you know, 18 and 22, you know, and Tinder. And so with Tinder at my disposal, I just went out there and I had all kinds of experiences. And I even like at one point was, I'm going to say this because it's funny and I think it's interesting. And for the viewer, it's like, really? I was a sugar baby at one point.
This is definitely NSFF, not safe for family.
But it all comes back to like I really wanted to feel loved. And so and then finally after 5 years I got out of the friend zone and I started dating that girl that I liked in high school and for 5 years. And it was interesting because for those 5 years we weren't dating. We were best friends. I called each other best friends. And I watched her date guys and I watched her do this and that. And for me, it was incredibly painful to watch her date guys that I thought were awful to her and mean to her. And I was like, I want to treat you the right way you deserve.
Can I stop you and ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So throughout this 5-year friendship, this lead up period, was there ever anything that happened between you that gave you kind of hope?
Yeah, there was. We hooked up in college. Beginning of my freshman year. Actually, there were 2 moments. In high school, we hooked up briefly, and she wanted something physical, and I wanted something serious. And so, like, it ended that way, where I kissed on the forehead rather than, you know, it just, and then it never turned into more. And then when I left for college, it was like we both wanted it, but we were leaving, so we had another experience, and that was, you know, whatever. And then all through college, I'd go visit her at school. And whenever I would go and visit her, like we'd go to dinner and hang out. And I mean, looking back, those were dates. I mean, I don't care. Like she even will say that, like it really, we went on dates, you know, where like I even bought her shoes one time.
Yeah.
Like I would buy her really nice gifts and like.
So they're little glimpses of what
it felt like. I would get moments of hope, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think her and I both wondered, like, could this work? Could this be that? And so we started dating, like, you know, and that. For me, it was awesome. Like I loved it, but it also didn't work. You know, it was really an unhealthy fit, and it was a lot of. I was super messed up. Like I really put probably a lot of the desire of being loved from my mom into her, and so much of my self-worth was wrapped up in dating her. Like I really loved our story of our relationship. I was like, yes, like I got out of the friend zone. It was awesome, and it was like a trophy rather than a peaceful thing to keep going.
So how didn't you fit? You said it wasn't a good fit. What do you mean by that?
She's an extrovert. I'm an introvert, and she wants to go out, and I don't. I mean, frankly, like I am very happy having a night in, and I don't want to meet new people, and I don't really want to. I have 6 friends, and that's all I really want. I don't want more. And our introversion and extroversion was just hard to get. You know, it was a big divide in the way we lived our lives and the things we desired from our lives, and I think her and I's relationship was so. I caught her at a really rough time. Like she graduated college and was going through a lot, and I think
that's a big transition.
Yeah, and you know, and she had a lot of personal stuff going on. Had a medical issue, and so I think it was need rather than want. A lot of it, like we needed each other and we were there for each other, and it was great. We were there for each other through that hard time, but the reality is that I don't think it just wasn't what it needed to be long term, which sucks, but is also real.
Yeah, you make one point there that I just want to talk a little bit more about, and that's, I think this idea of trying to get together and make something meaningful when either one or both of you are at a transition point in life. So for instance, like if you're just gone through a breakup, or if you've just graduated from college, or if you've just gotten divorced or whatever, the idea that you can jump right back into building, a meaningful, healthy relationship, I think is kind of crazy.
Well, it's also like you got to acknowledge how much changed from the time we started like there was a moment early last year where we started transitioning from friends to dating. Where like you started texting every day, and like you could tell it's ramping up into something. But from that time until today, so much is different. She graduated college, she got a job, she did this, and then I was in college. I had a 3-year plan to finish college. I became a successful YouTuber and stopped making videos started making videos on YouTube and have a full blown career there. I have a place I live. I have my own spot. My life is significantly different, and my plan and the direction I was headed in is vastly different today than it was when we started dating.
I think that you can go through a transition like that if you're already in a relationship. Like it can work, but I think the idea of trying to start one then
during transitional periods,
right? Because I think as humans, oftentimes we're very uncomfortable with transitions, because it's unsettling. You're like, who am I now? Where am I going? Like you said that the girl graduated college and got a job, but it didn't happen that fast. I mean, there was a big period of time there when all that was happening, right?
Yeah, and I think the other
it's not
part
like it happens overnight.
No, and I think the plan changed, and that there was one thing she kept saying when we broke up. It's like, I don't know what would have happened if you'd finished college. She like literally was like, if you had 3 more years of school and I had time to do this, I got a job and I got my own place, and my life was like, I feel like I'm ready to grow up and get on with it. I hated college. I don't want to be in college, and she's still dealing with moving on from college, and
she needed to get herself right before.
We just realized we were in vastly different points of our lives, headed in different directions.
Yep.
And that sucks because...
but then underneath all that, you weren't a great fit either.
Yeah. And so when you're in that point, realizing we are both so extended, like trying to make this work, and it's still not working. Yeah. And we want different things. We're headed in different directions. Like, and then you wrap up that I'm super fucked up. Like to my whole 5-year thing of like wanting, and for her it was a short relationship. For me it was a 5-year relationship. I mean that's that approach is so different. I mean it didn't work, and that sucks, but it's honest. And then I mean I always say like I was so desperately in love with her where like I really wanted it, and
you were desperately dating her.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it ended, and I was like, fuck, now what? I really there was a coach who got fired by the Dallas Cowboys recently, who he was with the Cowboys for like 20 years as an assistant, and then he played quarterback for them as a backup, was an assistant, then moved up the ranks through the Cowboys, and he lost his job after 10 years with the Dallas Cowboys. I can't imagine what the hell, like he's probably sitting there like, now what? My whole identity was wrapped up in this job. Everything, and that's exactly how I feel. Like my whole identity was wrapped up in this relationship, and everything I wanted for so long was this relationship. So to lose it was like, where do I even go? Where do I even begin?
Right. So to just take a new coaching job the very next day, it probably wouldn't be a good game plan, right?
No. And so I had to gather myself. I mean, it really and figure out what do I want, where am I going, what's this, what's that, and it was, I think, similar to losing Zane, my brother. It was both one of the better things that's happened in my life and one of the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I lost my best friend, and it was a really painful breakup, but also it forced me to get my shit together.
Absolutely.
And one of the best things that came out of it was when I've really had to focus on myself. Like throughout the whole relationship, Strong Opinion Sports, my other podcast, was number one, even over her. Like there would be nights where she wanted to go out, and I was like, I am sorry, I got to record, I got to work, and I would ignore her, and she'd sit in my bedroom alone, like just on her computer working, and I never gave the time to her. And so when her and I broke up, I was like, it's Friday night, and I don't have the energy emotionally or physically to make the show. I got to have the night to myself. And I went out, and I'd go for a walk or I'd do this. And through that process, I think Strong Opinion Sports has gone from number 1 to maybe number 2 or 3 in a healthy way, where it's my job and I love it and it's everything I do. But also I got to put myself and take care of myself first.
True.
Because if I'm not in a good place, the show is bad. My relationships personally and around me and friendships are bad. Like there's more to life. And maybe the point of working and doing the job and making the show is so that I can enjoy my relationships and I can enjoy going out and I can do this. And I've learned countless lessons from that relationship. And so it was a valuable step in the process of becoming who I am today and who I want to be long term.
Yeah, I think that's a really healthy transition in your thinking. It sounds very mature. You know, you go from living to work to working to live. You know,
Yeah.
it puts work in the priority level where it should be.
And I can't be mistaken. I fucking love. I have the
Yeah,
best job in the world,
absolutely.
and I will aggressively
Yeah.
fight for it. But also knowing that there are some times where I went on a date the other day, and you know the show was uploading. I think it was like say it's 6:30, right? And the show takes 3 hours to upload, and so I set the show to upload, and it was almost done when we left. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go on this date. We went to Old Spaghetti Factory, got great bread and Mrs. cheese. It was awesome. And I got back, and when the date was over at like 10 o'clock, then I posted the show. And it's like, does that 4-hour gap really matter that much?
No.
No. And people still watched it.
Yeah.
People watch it when it comes out. And to have a little less, maybe to enjoy my job a little bit less desperately too.
Oh, good point.
To like
Yeah.
to be less emotionally attached and impatient with my job. There's just more, I'm in a healthier place in my job too.
Yeah, for sure. More at peace.
Yeah, exactly. I make what I make, and I'm very proud of it, and I hope people watch.
Yeah, and they do.
Yeah. So I think that's really the long version of my story, Desperately Dating.
Okay.
It's been fun. Does you have anything else? Any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. That has been episode 4 of the Desperately Dating podcast. My name is Zach. That has been Karyn, and I hope you have a great day.